Hi, I'm Eran Dilger with a special report on why I'm not reporting about Apple's shareholder meeting today. Apple holds an annual shareholder meeting that's open to two kinds of people. One is anyone who owns any amount of Apple shares, shareholders, and who shows up before about 9:30. That group of people gets to sit in the auditorium and at the end of the meeting can get up and ask the board, which is primarily Steve Jobs, questions, which is a pretty cool opportunity. The second group of people is anyone who identifies themselves as a member of the press or anyone who shows up late. These people are all shuttled off into a separate room where they get to listen to the proceedings and they can ask questions by writing them down on a piece of paper that apparently Apple doesn't do anything with. So a couple years ago in 2008, I got up and asked several questions, and to be fair, after every question I got at the end of the line and waited through everyone else that was waiting, and then asked another question. So I just got as many questions in as I could. Interestingly, the media was mad about that, particularly Tom Grazit of CNET, who wrote an article who said I had dominated the meeting. And ironically, instead of reporting on the questions that I asked or the answers that Steve Jobs gave to those questions, the media reported on the fact that I was asking questions, and I also reported on what those questions were in my blog. In subsequent years, every time I have attended the shareholder meeting, I am accosted by Apple security, and they try to get me to sign in as a member of the press. And because I do have a share or shares of Apple computer, I say, no thanks, I would like to sign in as a shareholder and sit in the auditorium. And this year, they asked me if I'm sitting in the shareholder meeting in the main theater, that I not ask any questions that I report on. So I weighed my options of whether I would rather ask Steve Jobs questions or whether I would rather report on those questions. And I decided I would rather ask Steve Jobs questions. So I agreed not to report on the questions that I asked. Now, Apple had a room full of media people who I assumed would listen to the questions that I'm asking and the answers that Steve Jobs gave and report them. And that didn't really happen, unfortunately. And because I told Apple that I wouldn't be reporting the answers to the questions that I asked, I felt obligated not to do that, to honor what I said. And so I can't write up what I said. This has gotten me in trouble with my publisher, who had promoted me as writing a special report for them. This is the part of the shareholder meeting that I can report because I didn't say I wasn't going to report this part. It's not the interesting part, I'm sorry. But I was on a motorcycle accident a couple months ago, so I don't have a bike anymore. It's smashed. And I couldn't rent a car, so I was kind of stuck without a ride. And so I decided to take Caltrain, which is the regional train that goes from San Francisco to Cupertino. It's about an hour away. And it turns out that Caltrain hit a car that morning, so it was backed up. And instead of getting on the limited train that gets down there in a very long time, I got on the Milk Run train that takes forever to get down there. And I was almost late. Unfortunately, a reader down there, Stephen, gave me a ride, which was really cool. Thanks to him giving me a ride, I got there on time and got into the auditorium. And I was able to ask a couple questions, which I can't say what they were. And I got some responses from both, from two people on the board who answer questions. And I can't say who they are. And I can't say what they said. And apparently the tech media can't say either, because either they weren't listening or something. When you go in, you go through security. Usually when I go through Apple security, my arm goes off because I have a piece of metal in my arm and from a motorcycle accident. And this time it didn't go off. So it seemed like they've kind of dialed that down a little bit. They take away your computer, right, which makes sense, but they don't take away your cell phone. And I voluntarily put my cell phone in my bag. I was looking around and I saw a number of people with iPhones in the audience who were able to make reports. And so a number of people, I saw Elmer DeWitt in Fortune, his blog, was reporting the number of people were reporting on the event, and I have to tell Apple it wasn't me. It wasn't me. I wasn't tweeting. I wasn't texting anything. Wasn't taking pictures. But apparently everybody else was. And so I think their restrictions upon me at the behest of CNET were probably unnecessary, considering that they have a room of media people listening to the event who report on kind of the sensationalist bits and the funny things that Steve Jobs says, but do not apparently have any interest in anything of any degree of substantial newsworthiness. The reason why I was up so late last night is because I was doing the Myth 10 article and the video for it, which, because I am so boring on camera just talking about stuff, I decided to involve my friend and Bay Area comedian Kara. And I thought it would be kind of clever to present this, instead of just kind of a boring monologue, to present it in the form of Get a Mac spoof. So I started doing this with Kara, and she kind of sexed it up to the point where it's almost like, instead of being a spoof on Get a Mac ads, it's almost like a spoof on pornography. So I wanted to publish that, but I think maybe it's too rich. Let me know whether you think that that is too much to publish, and whether you'd like to see more along those lines of Mac sort of comedy and maybe slightly inappropriate, or if you think that that's just unprofessional. Please let me know. I want to hear your feedback. I would like to do kind of more regular video blogging, because really my hand is kind of busted up. My left hand, I broke my left hand in my last motorcycle accident, and I also broke my collarbone, and so it's kind of hard to exercise, which leaves me kind of depressed. And so it's hard to get a lot done in my free time of doing writing. And check out my other video, and if you think that it's funny, I think it's hilarious in kind of an unintentionally looking hilarious way, because it's really bad, and it's bad to the point of being funny bad, I think. So let me know what you think, and please send in your ideas and comments on other things that I do, and let me know. So that's my special report, and I hope to hear from you. Thanks. Bye.